Hey everyone, in this video we are going to be factoring a polynomial expression. So in the next example you're going to see that the directions are actually going to be solving polynomial equations. Big distinguishing difference between everything is an expression has no equal sign. The directions can't ask you to solve because you cannot isolate the variable or the unknown thing that is allowed to vary. Instead, we can manipulate it, we can simplify it, we can expand it or factor it. We can't, however, solve it. Okay? So in this case, you analyze what it is that you have. I always want to check for a greatest common factor first. Since 3 and 5 are prime, I'm not thinking I'm going to have any constant that can come out of everything. So 3, 5, 12, 20, probably not going to have anything in common. And since my last term, if I didn't have the negative 20, right? So if instead, for make believe for a moment, if instead that negative 20 wasn't there, if it was just this, you do have a GCF of x. However, we do have that 20, so we can't have a GCF of x or a constant. We already established that. Then the next most reasonable method, considering you have 4 terms especially, is we're going to factor by grouping. So let's go ahead and dive into that right there. So I'm going to identify what my groups are. Now, a lot of people are going to want to rearrange the 5 and the 12. It makes them more comfortable a lot of the time because they see the commonalities between the 3 and the 12 and the 5 and the 20, but I promise you 1,000 times over, and I've said it 100 times, you don't need to rearrange. If it's in standard form, we love it. It works every time. You don't have to worry about anything. What is the greatest common factor out of 3x to the third and 5x squared? I see a lot of people still messing this up. They're putting only x, or they'll write x squared, but they won't actually think about what's going on and properly factor out or undistribute the x squared. So make sure you're really paying attention, okay? So x squared is the biggest thing that they all have in common. Even though we have the word greatest in the phrase as greatest common factor, you're not including the 3, the 5, or the 15. It's never like that. It's just the biggest thing that they all have in common. In the next set, when your leader is a minus sign, you're going to use a negative GCF. Our leader has an invisible positive, so my GCF will have an invisible positive as well. Now, what do 12 and 20 have in common? If you struggle with this, I need for you to really practice your prime factorization on the side. You gotta suck it up and you just gotta do it. So normally you might think 4 times 3, but we should know by now that 4 is 2 times 2, and there's the 3. And 20, I hope our brains kind of go right away to 4 times 5 is a good place to start. But 4 we said is 2 times 2 times 5. So what is it at most that both 12 and 20 have in common? 2 times 2 or 4. You could obviously jump right to the 4, but there we go. So the thing that they both have in common is a 4 minus 4. So in the next step, the underline establishes what the groups are in this grouping method. It also is helping us undistribute, because distribution is multiplication. To undistribute, you're technically dividing. So if I'm going to divide by x squared, I can't just randomly divide by x squared. So what you're going to do is you're actually also going to multiply by x squared to keep the balance. That's where the x squared out front comes from. Then I'm not just going to divide by minus 4, I'm going to multiply the front by minus 4 as well. Now, how do I get what's left inside? Well, obviously we use our pretzel. 3xxx divided by xx. If you have to write it out, guys, write it out. So 3xxx divided by xx. X crosses out from top and bottom. Another one, what's left behind is just 3 and x. Top 5 xx over xx. It's not 5x. Stop writing 5x. If you are getting in your parentheses like terms, you're not doing it right. Like something's wrong, okay? Now this should also be 3x plus 5. Sorry. This should also be 3x plus 5. If not, something's not going well. So negative 12x over negative 4 is 3x. Negative 20 over negative 4 plus 5. We're almost done. Now, what is it that they have in common? They both have a 3x plus 5. That is your great big common factor. So what are we going to do with that? Sorry, need a cup of water. 3x plus 5, we're going to pull that out front. So big yellow comes out front. If that pulls out front, we're undistributing it. One went to everybody. We passed it out to everyone. What's left is x squared minus 4. If the power is 1, when it comes to factoring, we're probably done. But that right there is the difference of two squares. What's being squared to make x squared? X. And what's being squared to make 4? If you hear noises, my dog's in my lap. It's 2. So this is just your thoughts, okay? That's why I haven't gotten water. You know when your dog's sitting on your lap and you feel like you can't get up because you don't want to disturb them. They're like all sleepy and cozy. So that is almost like the sum and difference of cubes. Don't mix it up. This is just difference of squares. So you're going to factor. It's going to be two binomials. The first one's x minus 2 and the other one is x plus 2. Guys, if you're ever unsure if you've factored correctly, you just multiply it back out, okay? So I would start by x plus 2 times x minus 2. I would FOIL. And then I would take whatever I get from that and multiply it by 3x plus 5. You should really get the original problem back. So if you're taking a midterm or something and you're done early because you had 2 hours to do 20 questions, probably not a bad idea to remultiply out everything and just make sure it's right. Because at least if it's wrong, maybe you could tweak something, point here, point there, you know, pretty good. So that's the end of this example. I hope you feel like a genius. If you do, put a thumbs up. Even if you just feel a little bit smart, you can put a thumbs up. If not, you're mad about my coughing, I'm sorry, put a thumbs down. Okay? Click through for the next example and talk to you later. Adios.